Good evening and welcome everyone to this Sunday's edition of Generally Irritable. Super duper excited to be here today. I'm feeling pretty good about myself. I'm feeling myself today, you guys. I am totally feeling myself today. Why is that, you're asking? Why is Erica so excited and feeling very proud of herself today? Well, it's because I came home with this lovely blue ribbon. Yes, that's right. Look, see where it says first place? See? First place. Oh, wait, you can't see it because it's out of focus. First place, Vermont Maple Festival. You guys, I'm super excited. Reddick for Congress had a float in today's Maple Festival parade, and we took best maple-related float of the entire parade. So I'm super excited for us and for my team that put it together. I could not be more grateful. I graduated high school from BFA St. Albans, and I remember being in that parade 30 plus years ago. I'm totally dating myself, but I remember being in that parade when I was little or younger, when my mom had her gymnastics studio and we would go through the parade. It was awesome. It was super fun. We had a great time. The float looked beautiful. I should have been prepared with pictures for the show today. I am not. I'll probably have them for you guys next week. We'll put them up on the website. We'll put them up on social media. It's going to be awesome. I want to give a special shout out to the volunteers who worked super hard on the float and the costumes and the decorations and everything. So I wrote it down to make sure I didn't forget anybody. So Ray Ingram, Patty Myers, Tom Licata, Elizabeth Miller, Jane Straczynski, Christian Bear, Anne LaPeltier, Jay Lubke, were the people who they made the float, created it, made something for it. Jay drove all the way up from Wells to do our photography today. And then we had even more volunteers there marching with us today. I know I'm going to forget somebody. We had Representative Mark Higley, Wendy Wilton, James Cross was there with his daughter. Everybody brought kids. We had a great crew. Just super duper excited, you guys. I literally started to cry probably 15 times throughout the day because I was so grateful for the work that everyone put in and how beautiful it turned out. People kept walking up to us saying that we had the best looking float in the parade. People, when we were waiting in line before we got started, people were walking up and going, yeah, that'll definitely place. That'll definitely place. So it was just awesome. And it was such a good team of folks putting it together, even up until the last minute. Ray even stayed with the float to make sure nobody messed with it last night. And Lucas Short also, he helped put the float together with Ray last night up in St. Albans. So they put the final pieces together once they got to St. Albans. But just awesome. I'm just going to show this off again. Maybe I'll just wear this through the whole episode because I'm super duper proud of myself. I don't know if that's rude. I don't care. But what I've got for you tonight that I'm really excited about, other than my blue ribbon, is my guest, Chairman Paul Dame. He is the Vermont State GOP chair, and he's come on tonight to talk to us about candidate recruitment, the 2022 election, and then looking forward to 2023 town meeting day, and then 2024 when we've got even more House and Senate races and all of that kind of stuff. So I've been really pleased and really grateful for all the work that Paul has put in so far this year as chairman. He's been hosting events. He helped with a fundraiser for Christina and I. We were the first two candidates to announce, and so he did a fundraiser for us on International Women's Day. We raised a bunch of money. It was awesome. It made a tremendous impact for our campaign. He's got new website, a new software that he's implementing. Basically, Paul Dame is rocking it like a rock star as chairman of the Vermont GOP. And so I just had to have him come on and talk to us a little bit more about what is in the works. So, Paul, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, Erica, thank you so much for having me. Congratulations again on placing. Is that your first ever parade that you were in?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yes.
that's a good start right there. Yeah.
I'm now we're gonna have to be looking out for the parades in the future, like Memorial Day and stuff, and see if there's prizes,
Yeah.
because this just kicked in my competitive spirit.
Yeah, yeah, I know. That was one of my favorite things to do when I was a candidate. I served in the House and in Essex Junction,
Yep.
and Essex has a big Memorial Day parade, and that was one of my favorite things to do. So keep an eye out for that one. I know it's back this year. A lot of the parades, were closed under COVID, so this is
That's true.
probably the first parade a lot of people.
Yeah. Good
So
point. In 2 years.
yeah, yeah,
No
because I know
kidding.
Maple Fest was basically non-existent the last 2 years, right?
Isn't that so sad?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited we're getting back to life. We're getting back to all the fun, family, community stuff. We really need each other. Like, if the last 2 years proved anything, it's that human beings need other human beings. We need to be with one another. Even my introvert friends out there, I know you're watching. I know you don't like to be with people, but you even need to be with people. Um
Mhm.
so it's awesome. I think we were talking about doing the Virgins Memorial Day parade, but maybe we'll have to draw straws. We'll see.
They might be on different days too.
Oh,
So
look at
I
that.
think I think there was one time where we used the same float, like the Addison County and Essex Republicans, use the same float between parades. So
Heck yeah.
so we'll
I
see.
like it. Keep reuse stuff, reduce, reuse, recycle. I like it.
Well, the great
So,
thing about the parades too is the reason I always loved it is you're like you there's no other way to get that close to
mm,
ten
that
thousand
many
people
people.
and go out and literally shake the hands of 100 or 200 people. And if
Yeah.
you're prepared, you've got literature and stuff that you can give out. And it's just really encouraging, because so often as Republicans in Vermont, people feel like they're completely alone. They're the
Yeah.
only Republican that lives in their town. I mean, maybe up in Franklin County, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, there's
Um,
like one or two of them.
right. But you get to go out there and be like, hey, not only are there Republicans, I'm one, and look at all these people with me, and all the people who are just on the sidelines can say, you know what, there are Republicans around here, and here's some creative Republicans doing something different, supporting parents, which I think is a really important issue for this election.
Yeah.
So it's no surprise to me that with that sort of theme, you got
Yes.
you came in first.
Yep,
So
that was our theme, tap parent power, right? So we tap, right? Like Maple, ha ha ha, tap parent power. Because this is, we really need to see families getting together and working together like we used to. I think the fact that the family unit um has really just been damaged over the last, not just like the last couple years, but the last several decades, where it's like, the kids are supposed to go off and do their own thing, and they, there's no multi-generational households anymore. We send our parents to the nursing home when they get old, instead of keeping them in the home. And so I think this idea that, parents, we want parents to have control over their kids' lives and their education and these things, but not just that. It's, how do we work together and come together and take care of one another in community?
yeah,
So,
I know that's been a big theme. That was certainly something that came up in Glenn Youngkin's race for governor.
yes.
That,
Yep.
that allowing parents have kind of outsourced a lot of things, education being the number one part of that, and parents are realizing that there was a cost with some of that outsourcing, and they want to sort of reclaim some of
Yeah.
at least the input and an important role in making some of those decisions and just making sure that
Yeah.
that what they think is happening at school is actually happening.
Don't take for granted that people are doing their job correctly. That is something that I've learned as a business owner and as a landlord, and things like that. And not even because people are being, it's not even that people are necessarily being, what's the right word? not doing their job correctly. They're not trying to be malicious or anything even necessarily. They might just not know, or they may not understand how it affects you and your family. But
Well,
anyway, enough
every
about
time
me.
we add a new sort of layer of government in between, the people
Yes.
and the service provider, whether it's
Yes.
education, whether it's healthcare, whether it's a number of other things. The
Yes.
more layers of government, it's like a longer and longer game of telephone. It's
Yes.
harder to make sure that the people who are getting the service are actually getting
Getting the
what they
service.
want, and the people who are providing the service know what the expectations are.
And that is so true. And now you've got you've got your school board, then your district, superintendent, whatever, and then you've got the state, and then you've got the federal government, Department of Education. And I mean, I don't know anybody who thinks that No Child Left Behind has been a benefit to American young people, like to our educational system. So that was a really good way of putting it, Paul. Patricia said you had a great float in the Maple Festival. Thank you, Patricia. Clever. Yes, I can't take all the credit. It was definitely a team effort. But I want to remind everybody that, this is an interactive show. So if you have a specific question for Paul, if you are thinking about running, if you have questions about running, just throw them in the chat, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. We'll see it. And we'll ask Chairman Dame. We'll ask him what he thinks. So let's start with a look ahead at this year, 2022. So we've got some statewide candidates for various races. Are there any of the big statewide races that we don't have a candidate for yet?
Yeah. So as you know, we've got primaries in 3 statewide races, and I think that's the first time that's happened in a couple of years. We've got a primary for the U.S. Senate, primary for the U.S. House, primary for lieutenant governor, and we've still got the filing deadline is still another month away. So we may have both candidates and primaries in some of these other races, and to me, this is a strong or the sign of a strong party when you've got not only people running for office but also primaries as well. It's not people don't just step aside and let just let the person on the ballot go. So, but that being said, we do still have some openings. The most important one, I think, is there's going to be an open seat for Secretary of State with Democrat Jim Condos is stepping down.
Yep.
Right. Yep. And there's going to be a primary. Looks like on the Democratic side, Condos has his sort of favorite pick, Chris Winters, and it looks like there's one, maybe 2 other people that could be getting into that race. Okay. So I think there's an opportunity for a Republican. It's an open seat, so you're not running against a 4 or 6 year incumbent. That can be a little bit easier race to run. And I think elections integrity is a really important issue for Republicans this year. We're starting to see more interest in that nationally. I really appreciate our national chair, Ronna McDaniels, who's talked over and over again that Republicans want to make it easier to vote and harder to cheat.
Yep.
Right. I think some of the things that are being done, just creating longer polling, making sure that the polling places are open long enough that there is an appropriate number of locations based on population, so people aren't waiting in lines. Those are all things that Republicans are on board with. Republicans love things to be quick, easy, and efficient. But we don't like the government doing a lot of stuff. So every Republican I know wants to make it the way that we're kind of spoiled here in Vermont.
Yeah,
how easy it is to vote. You walk in. I don't think I've ever had to wait more than about 4 or 5 minutes.
Well, yeah, and you can
cast my vote.
Correct. And you can ask for an absentee before there was universal mail-in ballots. You could ask for an absentee ballot for anything. In some states, you have to have a good reason, like, you're military or you're something or other, whatever. You can't just ask for a mail-in ballot for no reason. Vermont, You can ask for it whenever.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, totally agree. And that's, it's been interesting to see the sort of hype around election integrity, safe elections. If you say that you're concerned about that, it's because you're a conspiracy theorist. And I'm like, okay, do you guys not remember after the 2016 election how every news station like CNN, NBC, ABC, they all did these deep pieces where they talked about the flaws in the ballot machines. I mean, they showed us how to cheat. Do you remember that? They were like,
Well,
"Oh,
the thing that I remember over and over again was Democrat talking heads talking about how Russia hacked the election,
right." And so
which is a very alarming kind of phrase that got used over and over again after the 2016 election, without any evidence to back up that kind of claim.
exactly. And now we come to 2020, and if you have any concerns, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist somehow. And I'm like, how did it? I don't. So 2016 was hacked, but 2020 was like the most safe, secure election of all time, even though you spent all this effort to convince us that we should be suspicious.
Right. Well, I think I think at the end of the day, for people to make those kinds of accusations, there's got to be some very concrete proof, right? When you're
Yeah.
accusing someone of election fraud, that's a felony. You
Yeah.
shouldn't be just going around throwing accusations for crimes without having any evidence.
That's right.
But just because even if there is no election fraud that we have evidence for, doesn't mean that we've got the perfect system and it couldn't happen in the future.
Yes.
And I think a reasonable person, I mean, we talk about this over and over again. It's not just Republicans, but a majority of the population supports simple, basic procedures like voter ID at the polls.
Yes.
You need an ID for almost anything that you do.
You literally cannot be a human being on this earth, or an adult basically, without an ID. You can't have a job, you can't have welfare, you can't have anything. Like, you can't have a bank account, you can't travel, you can't drive, you can't, so, and my understanding is that is overwhelmingly, whether regardless of race, age, area, even party, for the most part.
Yeah, certainly, and it's also, the kind of thing that a lot of sort of false hurdles get thrown in the way, saying, "Well, some people don't have ID," and I certainly challenge that. I mean, most people do, but even if they don't, let's assume that's the case. Government creates IDs all the time. So if somebody doesn't have a driver's license, they don't have a passport card, they don't have an employee, they're not. I mean, in Vermont, the state of Vermont is the largest employee in the state. So all those people have some kind of government issue ID. So we can. That's a hurdle that is very easy to overcome.
Yes.
That provides both integrity and access.
That's right. And just everybody watching, it is April 24th. So you have 3 months, 3 months and 15 days or whatever it is until the primary, or 14 days. The August 9th is the primary. So you have that many months to figure out how to get to the DMV or some other way of getting your ID. And then it's a couple more months till the general. I'm pointing at you, people. I'm pointing at you. Okay, so Pat asked, do we have any prospects for treasurer, secretary of state, or auditor? Have you heard any whispers of anybody running for one of those seats?
I've had a couple conversations with some folks. Nobody has made any kind of commitment yet. That's certainly something that we're still looking into. And again, some of those offices, especially treasurer and auditor, are the kind of office that I think are easier for Republicans to win in a state that's blue, that has been blue, like Vermont. I want to use the past tense here because I'm hoping that November is going to be different.
We're going to change
because those are very cut and dry, financial and accountability centered roles, both treasurer and auditor. And we've had, a lot of people forget that before Governor Jim Douglas was governor, he also served as treasurer. So it's a great opportunity for Republicans to get into a role and use our the thing that I think everybody would agree, even folks who don't usually vote Republican, will concede that Republicans are more fiscally conservative. And man, you want to have somebody who's a fiscal conservative in charge of your money as state treasurer.
That's right.
That's a great opportunity. And people with similar kinds of backgrounds could be great for both treasurer and auditor. Somebody who has experience in the accounting world, makes it a very easy, natural transition to run for an office like that.
And those are both full-time year, though actually all three of those, treasurer, secretary of state, and auditor, are year-round full-time jobs. So this is for folks, a lot of times people don't feel like they can run for state house or state senate because it's part-time, so they can't make it like a job. Do you know what I mean? And then if they are like accountants, can't work during that time season because it's tax season. Sugaring people usually don't take that job because of the season. But those are full-time year-round jobs, and they have like 6-figure salaries, if I remember correctly. They're not for bozos.
Yeah.
So, sorry, that's rude. I don't mean to. Maybe they are. Maybe it is for bozos. I don't know. So, Pat said we have multiple social organizations that help obtain IDs like WIC, Medicaid, and other folks like that. So they can definitely help with voter ID. So I didn't realize that. That's awesome. So speaking of the local elections, so we finally got redistricting done, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Tell the viewers a little bit. Now there's some baggage around these new districts. Is that correct? That the Democrats who have a super majority, this is just so everybody listening, remember you guys, for anybody that is unhappy with some of our Republican leadership for voting on certain things, I'm with you. I don't like it either. But when there is a super majority of progressives and Democrats where they can override a governor's veto without really trying, if we had even a handful more Republicans and right of center candidates in there, a lot of this stuff wouldn't even make it out of committee. And that's part of the problem. So if you don't like what's getting voted on, let's get some new people in there so these crazy bills don't come out of committee. Okay? Yep. Everybody watching, run for House or Senate. For God's sake. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing too is that's I have two main focuses right now for the next 30 days.
Yeah.
It's recruiting candidates and raising money to support those candidates. That is why I get up early and I stay up late, is trying to raise money and recruit candidates. Because so for anyone who's interested, the deadline, the first step, I should back up there. The first step is getting your name on the ballot. Yeah. Compared to a lot of other states, Vermont makes it very easy for a candidate to get on the ballot. In some places, there's very expensive fees or these astronomical, signature requirements, or you have to go to the state party and get permission. Yep. In Vermont, we like people to be independent, and you can really do it all on your own to get on the ballot. All you've got to do, if you're running for a House seat, you need to collect 50 signatures from people who live in your district.
And that's super important. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Paul. Remember, you guys, they need to be registered voters and they need to be in your district. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Yep. If you're running for a Senate race, it's 100, and statewide, I believe, is 500. Correct. So all reasonable numbers that you and especially a couple other people can help you with. But if you're interested in running as a Republican, please reach out to the state party. If you just go to our website, VTGOP.org, you'll see up at the top there's a link to run for office right there, right next to the home button, run for office. Fill out that form, and it'll let it'll just get all your contact info to us, and usually it's going to be me reaching out to you. But we'll put you if you decide it's the right fit for you and now it's the right time, we can put you in touch with local Republicans in your area. We've got a number of town and county committees all over the state. And so we've got some potential volunteer base that can help you go out and get those signatures, especially if you're kind of making the decision at the last minute. And the deadline to get those signatures and get on the ballot is May 26th. So a month and 2 days away. Get those signatures and get on the ballot.
And one of the things that we always tell people is make sure you get more than you actually need, because there's a lot of times people either think they're registered to vote and they're not, or they'll just lie to you to be polite because they're embarrassed. They don't want to admit they're not registered to vote or whatever. So I think I've got over 1,000 signatures at this point. I think we're just over 1,000 signatures and we need 500. But I think for my state Senate race, we needed 100. And I think I ended up getting about 150 or ish to make sure. And we cleared and we were fine.
Yep.
So is there like a percentage that you give as like a general rule to tell
I would say a bare minimum. I mean, what I tell people is get as many signatures as you can in the time that you have, because it's the opportunity to get out there and meet people. And it's important especially if you're a first time candidate, you're going to be out there and people are going to be like, well, what are you running for? Why are you running? And it starts getting you used to engaging with people. One of the problems I think anybody running for office has is we all kind of live in our own bubble that's been curated by us, right? Whether you're a Republican, whether you're a Democrat, liberal, conservative, everybody has this sort of this bias bubble, I'll call it. And so you tend to hang out with people who think like you and talk like you. And when you run for office and you're knocking on doors, you are getting way outside that bubble. You're interacting with people that you would never, I know I did. Interacting with people you'd never otherwise talk to. And so getting out there and getting signatures in the neighborhoods in your town or in your district is a great way to kind of get used to talking to different kinds of people, getting questions that you never would have thought that you would be asked. And you can start thinking about those answers as you're developing your campaign website and your other marketing material, to know that, all right, hey, this is, and you get a chance to put your finger on the pulse of what's happening in your district and find out, okay, I didn't realize that everybody's upset about something going on in schools. And you start incorporating that into your campaign.
Well, and you know what, Paul, I want you to tell the story that you told recently, and if it was at the Rutland GOP meeting, I'm trying to remember, where you talked about how
first time I knocked on doors.
Yes, and people were like, "Oh, I'm a Republican too."
Yeah.
They were weird about it. Would you share that story?
Yeah, sure. So, the first time,
I think this will be encouraging for people who are considering running who might be afraid. Okay, so sorry for interrupting. Go.
Yeah, so I ran as a first-time candidate. I had never done anything like knock on doors. I wasn't, like a co-salesman or whatever, the newest door-to-door thing was. It was really intimidating for me. And I lived in Essex Junction, which the time I ran had not elected a Republican in 10 or 12 years.
Wow.
So, it was a blue or purple district. And so I start, knocking on doors. And the first street I was on, I knocked on this one door and I said, hey, I'm running for state rep. I'm just trying to get out here and meet people. And the person asked me, are you running as a Republican or a Democrat? And I was like, uh-oh, I'm in Vermont. I was like, well, there's some things I can appreciate about, both sides, but I'm pretty fiscally conservative, so I'm running as a Republican. And they said, oh, me too, but don't tell anybody because I'm the only one on the street. And it was great to be a candidate and get to knock on that door and let that other person know, look, first of all, you're not the only Republican in town. Mm-hmm.
You're not.
Second of all, now you have somebody you can vote for.
Yes.
In 2020, we left 52 House seats uncontested. It means that Republicans in those districts didn't have a House member.
Anybody.
Now, the one thing I did do 2 years ago when I was a political director was we made sure that every Vermonter had a Republican to vote for, either in the House or the Senate. So in those places where we didn't have a House candidate, they could vote for somebody in the Senate.
Cool.
So you get to be that person that says, "Hey, I'm out here." So I felt a lot better about that. I moved on to the next door, knocked on that door. Same question: you run as a Republican or a Democrat? And so, well, I was a little more bold this time. Like, well, I'm pretty fiscally conservative. I think there's some concerns in Montpelier, and I'm running as a Republican. And the person said, "Oh, good, me too, but don't tell anybody because I'm the only one on my street." And what was really great at that second interaction was I got to tell that person, I know that's not true.
Yeah.
Because I just talked to your next door neighbor and they told me the same thing. And we had two people living on the same street next door to each other who had never known that they were both Republicans.
Isn't that wild?
And I think that's one of the things that you have an opportunity to do, like when you go to a parade or when you run for office as a Republican. And we need to start doing more stuff and being more visible. And I'm doing my best as party chair to do that. I mean, last week we did a voter registration drive at a gas station.
Cool.
Because it's like, where better to get somebody to get registered to vote, decide they're going to do something different, and when they're feeling the pain at the pump from Biden.
Oh my God, that's so smart, Paul.
I can't take any credit for it. A lot of other Republican committees are doing this in other states. And so I just saw a good idea and we applied it. I'd like to do it in more areas. So if anybody watching is on a town committee, reach out to us, and I'm happy to go to Barrie or Barton or Burlington or wherever to do one of these. We kicked it off in my hometown of Brandon, Vermont. I just thought, where else to fight Biden inflation than in Brandon. So.
Well, and I got to tell you, oh yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Okay, that's extra funny. I just realized that. So, okay, let me collect myself. So one of the things that I found so fascinating as I'm going around talking to Vermonters, like at, whether it's at an event somewhere, like the gun show, or even just talking to people on the street, knocking on doors, my random friends and family, people that I buy things from, all of the folks that I talk to that don't vote, and there's a lot of them, are people who would vote for our team. They may not consider themselves necessarily conservatives. They may not think of themselves as Republicans, but they know that what they see going on in Washington and in Montpelier is not okay. And so I think a lot of times we as Republicans haven't always done a great job of articulating our message and our beliefs and what really matters to us. And at the same time, we don't get any shine or play from the press and from the media.
Not the kind we want.
Yeah, right. The only press we get is bad press, and it's often not even true. Or it's spun in a way that makes it a lie, basically, And so
I know.
So I think that I want to talk about a little bit the software. Oh, wait, hold on. I just got myself off my train of thought. So the voting thing, I love the idea that you are encouraging voter registration drives. We registered 2 people so far who had never registered to vote and never voted in their life. And one of them was a 56-year-old man who was a veteran and everything. And I'm like, this is what we're fighting against, right? So how many people do we know that don't vote because it's bad enough that they don't know we're here because the press doesn't cover us, right? But then they don't know that they would vote for a Republican necessarily because we're not out there talking to them. So I love
that's one of the things I mentioned at another meeting that we were both at recently, that Republicans have to work 1.5 times harder than Democrats.
Yes.
We just have to, it's really easy to whine and get out, our miniature violin and be like, oh, we don't get the press coverage we want, and blah, blah. And it's like, that's loser talk. You know, if we want to win, we've got to do the things it takes to win. And if we're at a disadvantage, hey, if you're playing the last year's championship team, you know you've got to practice harder. You've got to do more in political races. You're going to have to raise more money. You're going to have to spend it smarter. You're going to have to spend more time. You're going to have to do everything 1.5 times harder than the Democrats do to win. Right. And I think that's why I lost my first race, because I didn't realize that. And then I came back the second time and I worked twice as hard. And I barely beat the Democrat incumbent. Now, I still beat an incumbent. I'm still the only Republican to serve that district in the last 20 years. But it's because I worked harder than anybody else who'd come before or after. And that's what it's going to take. I really believe that anybody who is willing to work hard can beat any Democratic incumbent.
Absolutely.
I don't care, even if you're in downtown Burlington. Now, if you're in downtown Burlington, you're going to have to work 3 times harder than that Democrat. It can be done, and there's a lot of Democrats in races who have never had to work hard in their entire career. And somebody who's going to get out there and pound the pavement and meet with people and listen to the advice of people who have done it before.
Yes.
There's a lot of people who are brand new to the party who have a lot of ideas. None of them have been tried. They don't have a track record to go with it. But me and a lot of the other legislators who have won tough races and lost tough races too, know what works and know what doesn't. And I found that, I mean, last election, we picked up 4 seats in the House, and we picked up 1 new seat in the Senate. And you know, I think it's all, and the people who won those seats all worked really hard. Yep. They worked. They were the hardest working people that I know. I mean, Samantha LaFave in Orange, Sally Aki in Middletown Springs, you know, Art Peterson in that West Rutland, Clarendon district.
Good candidates or good legislators you're mentioning. These are people who really care, are very competent, thoughtful people.
Yep. And, you know, so I really believe anybody who's willing to work hard can win those seats. Well, and sometimes people, I'll meet with people and they'll say, you know, I'm kind of a little bit more moderate, or maybe I'm too conservative to run. And I tell everybody, you know, we've got 180 job openings in November. That's how I think of it. Right. There's 150 House members. There's 30 in the Senate. We've got 180 job openings.
That's right.
Until I have 181 candidates, right? We're looking for anybody who's willing to work hard and who's willing to be teachable.
Yeah.
If you're willing to do those 2 things, I really think we can help just about anybody win a race anywhere in the state. And I think there's never been a better time to run as a Republican either.
That's right.
Even in Vermont, I think people are realizing that the Vermont Democrats aren't the Vermont Democrats of 12 and 15 years ago.
That's right.
It's something very different, something people are no longer comfortable with, and they want to see a little bit more balance. And I think it's part of a national trend as well. And I think Vermont Republicans have an incredible opportunity this election if we do the hard work it's going to take to win.
It really is, you know, it really is that if this new software, the for phone banking and door knocking that you got set up for us, I think is really going to change the game. People don't understand what we really need, because again, as I'm going around talking to people, okay, many of the people that we need to reach are especially our rural voters, right? They're not on YouTube all day. They're not on Facebook all day. They're not watching the news or reading the paper. They're milking cows and they're you know, raking leaves, and they're raising their kids and they're homeschooling and they're living their lives. Many of them don't even have good internet or good cell phone service. So they're definitely not, you know, on these apps and media. What they need is a personal touch of the candidate and or a volunteer picking up the phone and calling them and talking to them, or knocking on their door. We have to win this the old-fashioned way. And so I just love what you said. Anybody who says, I'm trying to remember what you said, but you said that's loser talk. Because I was totally there this week, Chairman Dame. I had a little pity party earlier in the week because Castleton was the fourth candidate forum that I found out about that I was not invited to. And I'm like, hey, if you're if you're filed with the FEC and you've raised money, we did our first submission for the FEC. Like, we've raised money. Okay, I'm a real candidate. So I was like, oh, they're just, and I was like, now granted, I made a huge stink and a bunch of people made a huge stink. So now I'm going to be in the candidate forum tomorrow. But I said, you know, I was throwing myself a pity party, and my husband was like, I think he basically said the same thing, which is something like, that's loser talk. Like, he was like, Erica, why are you surprised? Like, none of this is new information. And it was like, oh, right. I'm trying to play a game that is rigged for them with their rules. Like, I need to play a different game if I'm going to win this.
You just need to be realistic about what the expectations are. And because of that, you got to work harder, right? It's like you're playing a football game and you're kicking off into the wind, right? I mean, you don't get to like say, well, time out, let's wait 30 minutes until the wind changes direction.
Oh my God, it was windy. I don't want to play anymore.
Yeah. You just understand the conditions that you're in, and you've got to overcompensate with hard work. And I mean, I've done it. Lots of other candidates have done it before. It's not easy, but it's not impossible.
Yeah. So, okay, let's take a minute. I just want to say, hold on, let me check something really quick. I want to remind everybody, we're going to go back here. I'm going to share my screen one more time. Everybody, just as a reminder, I'm here with Chairman Paul Dame. He is the state party chair of the Vermont Republican Party. And so we're talking about recruiting candidates today on the Vermont GOP website. It's VTGOP.org. There's this button right here that says run for office. So go to VTGOP, click this button, fill out the form. Does that go directly to you, Paul, or does it go to somebody else?
Nope, it'll go to me.
Okay, I will. So you get that. Yep. Okay. And
I'll also say, just while you're up there, I mean, next to it, there's a link that says get involved.
Yeah.
If you want to do something, but you know that you don't want to run for office, whether it's just not really in your personality or you've got life circumstances that would make that difficult right now, you can still click on that get involved button. And what we'll do is we'll connect you to Republicans in your area. So we've kind of have three levels of the Republican Party. I'm the chair at the state level, and we have 14 different county committees, and then we have a number of town committees as well. And so some towns don't have a committee. We know we've got Republicans there, but we don't have people connected and meeting regularly. So even if you're in one of those towns, we'll find the town nearest to you and get you connected with them until maybe you're the person to help us start a town committee in your town.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's another option if you know running for office isn't quite for you, or now it's not the right time. You can still get involved in another way.
Yep. Well, and that's what, if we're going to win this, we really need everyone to get involved. You know, this is the kind of government we have is self-governing. And so that means we actually we have a responsibility to participate in our own self-governance. So you don't have to be a candidate, but do you have a skill that maybe the state, that the party could utilize? Like, are you a web developer? Are you a writer? Are you a graphic designer? These are all things that we need as candidates, that the state party needs. So anybody, even if you only have a few hours a month, if everybody who considered themselves right of center or libertarian, if every one of those people spent a few hours a month participating, making phone calls, knocking on doors, making some graphics or whatever, and participating, I mean, we win hands down.
I think this is the place too where I would challenge a lot of Republicans the kind of people who send me emails and say, well, you guys ought to do this and you ought to do that.
Yeah.
That's what Democrats do, right? They're the ones who tell other people how they ought to be living their life.
Somebody else's responsibility. That's hysterical.
If you're a Republican, like, I know I want to see a change and I want to help make that change, but I don't know how, or I need help to make that. Like those are the people that we need getting involved, building the party, running for office, self-starters and entrepreneurs. I mean, that's a natural fit for the Republican Party. And like you said, a lot of those kind of skills, graphic design, even administration, data entry stuff we can find a place for you to do whatever it is you want to do, even if it's just coming and holding a sign. When I went down to Brandon and we did voter registration, we had 5 or 6 people there, and a couple of women. I was the only guy, by the way. It was all women there, because I really
believe my dudes out there. I'm calling out all the dudes out there. Why is it the ladies doing
well? Because women in this inflationary environment, women know that Democrats are responsible for inflation and the increasing cost of raising and supporting their families. They're often the ones who are driving the kids everywhere and then filling up the gas tank in the van. They're doing the grocery decisions. Shopping, all those kinds of things. And so that's why I think we're seeing a lot of women getting involved at the party level. I mean, before I took over, we had, I think, all of our statewide officers in the party were women. We had chair, vice chair, secretary. Maybe the treasurer wasn't. But women are getting involved in the party, and women care about their families. And I think there's a sense in which we've seen in other states, even here in Vermont, the Democrat Party has not been very family friendly.
They've just gone too far. They've just gone way too far. Whereas it used to be the party of civil rights, right? Like that's how they liked to bill themselves back in the day. They were the party of civil rights. And now they've become very illiberal. And they believe that they can control they can control everything, whether it's your body or the climate. Somehow they will figure out how to fix it all. And it usually involves taking more of your money and more power away from you.
I think one of the most dramatic illustrations of the fact that they've gone too far is that they've lost Bill Maher. Right? They're too progressive for Bill Maher, right? Me and Bill Maher are not going to agree on a lot of things, but I've always felt like he was the kind of guy that I could listen to him. I mean, I didn't agree with him, but I understood where he was coming from.
Right. He could at least articulate why he believed what he believed, but I disagreed with him.
Yeah, but even he has come to the realization that, like, the Democrats have just completely, I don't know what the idiom is, but it's like they're not where they were even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And people even here, and that's why I think there's incredible opportunities for Republicans in Vermont, because there are moderate Democrats who realize the Democrat Party in Vermont is not the party that they've been a part of. I mean, that's one of the reasons I think we've seen a big change in Franklin County. The moderate Democrats in Franklin County realize that party doesn't represent them anymore. That's why it's a Republican stronghold. And I really believe that the same thing can happen across the state, as long as we're reaching out and doing that hard work necessary to let people know what the Democrats are actually doing in Montpelier.
Yes.
And that Republicans are opposing that. We're not on board with that.
Yes. Okay, so do you guys, I heard, I don't know if I should say who it was out loud, if it was
probably
like
not
sort of a secret thing.
If you're not sure and it's live TV, don't say it.
Don't say it.
That's a good rule.
Somebody we both know mentioned having done some research about what seats in Vermont are vulnerable and where we could be targeting our efforts. Can you say anything about that? and maybe like mention some towns or counties where you think we have a really good shot of making some headway, get some recruitment going?
Yeah, well, I think there's kind of three different categories that I would use to evaluate kind of what's a good seat to run.
Okay.
Now, first of all, I think we should contest every seat. I think we
Yes.
should run candidates in Burlington because if nothing else, running candidates in Burlington, even if they have a lower likelihood of success because of natural demographics, it keeps those Democrats in their district, not out helping somebody else.
That's true.
But in terms of where we have the best shot at picking up a couple seats, right? We've got 46 Republicans in the House. We only need 5 more.
Wow.
5 more will allow us to sustain Governor Scott's veto.
5?
One of the things,
that's it?
that's all we need. So even if we won 1 seat in every other county, right? That would be 7. That would put us. That's it. So if we won 1 seat in every county, we'd be in really good shape.
Yeah.
To go back, there's sort of 3 categories. I'd say we can identify a seat that is a good potential pickup because there's no incumbent running.
Oh yeah.
Because of redistricting, we've got a couple examples. There are very few. There's 2 I can think of off the top of my head, I think, where there's no incumbent. So it's a brand new district. It's a clean slate. You're not running against somebody who's been in there working the territory for 2 or 4 years. And there's 2 right here in Chittenden County. One is Westford, and then the eastern part of Milton is a brand new district.
That's right.
Westford used to be part of Essex. Essex has grown enough; they don't need Westford to fill that district. That's a place where I think a Republican could win easily, and they don't have an incumbent Democrat they're running against.
Yeah.
Another place is there's a brand new district because of the growth in both Williston and South Burlington. There's a new district that is part South Burlington, part Williston that has no incumbent in it.
Okay, hold on. Is there any way to stop the growth of Chittenden County just overrunning the rest of the state? I like the idea that there's new seats for Chittenden County as if they don't have enough seats in our legislature as it is. Are there any caps for a county?
No, it's all based on population. So you've got roughly, I think it's 4,200 people per House district, and they draw the lines wherever they fall.
So
I think the biggest
4 new Chittenden County seats.
You guys, I don't remember off the top of my head.
Sorry, everybody listening to this, look at my face right now. We need to take over Chittenden County. Grr. Okay, sorry, I interrupted you, Paul. Okay, so there's 3 kind of vulnerable seats.
So the first is
a few that are new districts and open seats. Okay.
The second is where you have an incumbent Democrat who's retiring. And we may not know exactly where those districts are going to be until the filing deadline on May 26th. So that's another reason we want to, if somebody's interested, we want to look at running you in that seat. Okay. And then the third is a place where we think we've got an incumbent who's vulnerable, somebody who is far more progressive than their district really is, and they've gotten away for it, or somebody who has potential conflicts of interest or has a voting record that is not consistent with their representatives. When I ran and won my seat in 2014, I had run against a Democrat who had advocated for a particular bill, and then after the bill had gone through, she got a job with the lobbying firm or the organization that was connected to the bill that she had helped get through. And so I did fundraising pieces on that. I did mail pieces on that. And that's part of the reason that I won. So there are places, even in sort of safe or Democrat-leaning districts, if you've got an incumbent whose voting record is not consistent with that area, a good Republican candidate can win those seats as well.
Well, and I think people I've talked to say, oh, well, we can't do negative campaigning. We can't do negative campaigning. And I'm like, look, you don't have to run out there and be like, so and so is a butthole, right? Because Vermonters don't play with that. We don't like that. We don't respond to that. But highlighting their voting record and the bills that they're proposing, I mean, if people knew about the clean heat initiative, and that, they're basically making fuel dealers, you ladies and gentlemen, if you heat your home with natural gas or oil, the state of Vermont is forcing fuel dealers to put themselves out of business by trying to convince their customers to turn to electric heaters, which we don't produce enough power to do, but that's another story. And then if your electricity goes out, you have no heat, but okay, whatever. And then if they aren't successful at putting themselves out of business, they will fine them and take that money to advertise for electric furnaces to put the fuel dealers out of business. That is literally what the clean heat standard is doing. And that's in our legislature right now.
Yeah. And that penalty, which is really going to amount to a tax,
yes,
what I'm going to call the mystery tax,
yep,
will be decided without future involvement from the legislature. They have delegated this power to the Public Utilities Board to basically, they get to decide what the penalty is and how much it should be and how it's going to get enforced. So everyone, it's not going to happen right away, but 2 years from now, everyone could see their heating bill increase
skyrocket
because of an unaccountable, unelected board made a decision, put it on the backs of fuel dealers, and they're going to pass it on to you, the fuel consumer.
Yep. Oh my God. Okay, so this is the nonsense. They highlight that stuff. Show people what is. I mean, there's 1,000 more bills we could mention that you just go. I mean, I love some of the posting you've been doing on social media. Hold on, really quick. I want to show your Facebook page. I love that you've been posting various things. You did some. Where is it? Oh, look at us! Hey.
That's right. We got our platform convention coming up this Saturday.
Yeah, baby. Yep. Oh wait, where is it? You made some posts showing like people's like what they were voting on and bills in there. So you got a lot of good stuff, a lot of information on the Facebook page. I know you've got the YouTube page too. You've got some videos on here. You're helping people. You're announcing some things. I like it. Okay, so did we mention all three ways that we have vulnerable seats?
Yeah. Open brand new districts that didn't exist, retiring incumbents, and vulnerable incumbents.
Got it. And so that's where, for some folks, if you're trying to figure out ways to help, opposition research is super helpful. I think the Ethan Allen Institute has the keeps track of all the voting. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Is it on the Ethan Allen Institute website?
Yeah, they have a number of bills that are important to them. A lot of advocacy groups do that, and they'll give you that incumbent's voting record on those particular issues. And for a lot of Republicans, that's going to be a good place to start. But if you decide to run for office or you're helping somebody run, we can look a little bit more specifically at that person's district. So, for example, anybody in Essex, right? Global Foundries is the largest private employer in Essex.
Yeah.
So there's been a couple Essex reps who have made votes or made statements that are not very friendly towards Global Foundries. So there are other things like that on a case by case basis where we can look at that particular incumbent, the unique characteristics of their district, and where we see that they're not representing the people that they're there to serve, and we can help folks, make an issue of that.
I like it. Okay, so that hour went by so fast, Paul. That this might be the fastest that an hour has felt like it went past. So we have to start thinking about wrapping it up. But I want to make sure, is there anything that we have not covered that you were like, oh, I have to make sure we talk about this?
I think that the big thing, I know it's a little more time sensitive. We've got our platform convention coming up this Saturday.
Yes.
If you are So we're going to vote on the 2022 platform that Republican Party is going to have for this election. And the folks who are going to be voting on that should have already gotten. They know who they are, and if you're involved in the party, talk to your county chair, and they can help you identify that or not.
Okay.
But what we're doing that's different is during lunch, we're going to open it up to anybody. So if you are watching this show or watching the recording of it, and you want to get more involved, you want to meet more Republicans and know what's happening, come to our luncheon at 12:30. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to hear from all 6 of our statewide candidates who are involved in a primary. So you'll be able to kind of get the first sort of your first impression of the candidates that we have running right now, and hear them all sort of back to back, and again meet other Republicans from around the state. So that's coming up this Saturday, April 30th. If you go to the VTGOP.org, you'll see it right there at the top of our website.
Is it on the first page here? Let me share it.
Yep, you'll see it, that little red cube. It says 2022.
This guy, bright, right? Yep. Where your eyeball first looks.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep. And if you're watching live, if you get your tickets before tomorrow, before Monday the 25th, they're 20% off.
Excellent.
So after Monday, prices go up.
Now, get tickets now, because there's a lunch and everything, right?
That's right. Yep. So at 12:30, you'll get lunch, and then we'll hear from the candidates as well, and I'll talk a little bit more about some of the plans that we've got for the rest of the year in this campaign cycle.
I love it. Well, and you guys have gotten really fancy because I'm not going to be able to be there this year, unfortunately. My husband and I had a vacation already planned that we're taking. I'm going to be out in the woods in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone service where nobody can bug me. It's going to be glorious. So we're going to have we're going to have a recorded message. You're going to have a whole AV team there. Like I just really want to applaud you. I know I said it in the introduction, but I just really appreciate all of your efforts to modernize the party, to provide all of these opportunities for people to talk and share and to get together. And, the Republican Party we've been having some family issues. That's what I call it. We're having family issues, right? Not everybody's getting along. People have different beliefs and different opinions on different topics. And a lot of times, I think sometimes, people get their feelings hurt and they just want to take their ball and go home. And that's not what we need. Like, it's like having a family where, your uncle is a butthole but you got to be there anyway because he's your uncle and you love him. Right. And you've got and maybe you're the butthole. I don't know. Like I'm a butthole sometimes, but we all have the same goal in mind. We all want to see Vermont succeed. We all want our families to succeed. We want to stop the 450 gallon gasoline and the imposing things on our children and all of these. Like we all want those things. So let's just get together, and accept our differences, that we all have differences, but focus on the goal and be strategic about the goal and focus on the goal instead of our feelings.
Yeah. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I think there's a lot of folks who want the Republican Party to do this, and they want every single candidate who has an R after their name to believe in this issue and talk about this. And again, that's a Democrat principle. You want everybody to act the same way according to your wills and desires.
Yes.
That's not how we work. Republicans are independent, thoughtful, considerate. They represent people in different districts in the state, and they've got to vote to represent those people and their interests. So the idea that we're all going to be cookie cutters and vote exactly the same way, we may as well be Democrats. That's what happens in Montpelier. If you want uniformity and conformity, join the Democratic Party. If you want independence and free thinking and a a discussion and exchange of ideas and differences of opinion, then you belong in the Republican Party.
That's right. I totally agree with that. And that's, I'm finding folks when again, this is just from my talking to people, I'm finding folks who are like, well, what do you think about this one issue? And I say XYZ. And they go, well, good. Because if you had said ABC, then I wouldn't have voted for you. And so I've really been pushing back on people and saying, if you and I sat down, we would agree on 95% of things, but you're making one topic change your mind about voting for me. And then what's going to happen is you're just going to not vote at all because I'm not perfect and I didn't pass your litmus test.
Mhm.
And so that if you don't get out and vote for me, then that is a vote for the Democrat. That is it, not just me, anybody, fill in the blank candidate. If you don't vote for the Republican candidate because there is one thing and one thing alone you disagree on, you're literally voting for the other party.
Yeah, and I hear this a lot with folks saying, "Oh, we got to get rid of whoever. You got to get rid of the moderates. You got to get rid of the conservatives."
Yeah.
I hear the same arguments from people with the opposite opinion.
Yeah.
That we can really do well if we kick out certain people.
Yeah.
Well, that how do you make the party bigger?
There's
Right?
not
We're a super minority right now. Right? We're at 46. How many do we have to get down to before we've really got it going? Do we got to get down to 30?
Passed the purity test.
Do we have to get down to 22? I mean, even at 46, we if we can convince a couple independents and Democrats to vote with us, we can sustain the governor's veto.
Yeah.
Until we have a Republican majority, all these conversations about who's moderate, who's conservative are counterproductive.
Yep.
Because it doesn't matter how conservative or liberal the party is right now if you're in the super minority.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that will happen is the progressives will make Vermont more and more progressive.
That's right.
If you want Vermont to be more and more progressive, then keep doing what you're doing, because that's the direction that we're going.
That's right.
But if you want to see a change, we've got to come together on this.
We got to work together.
There are good Republicans who would vote with. I mean, I served with two moderates when I was in the House in 2014.
Yeah.
And they didn't agree with me, right, on everything. But we knew the districts they represented, right? One was in Burlington, and one was in Bristol, and they, somebody got their wish, right? Whoever wants to kick out all the moderates, they got their wish in 2016 or 2018. Those guys are gone. Yeah. And now there's some crazy progressive person in there proposing and voting in a way that is 10 times worse than what we had before.
Correct.
And I would just really encourage anybody who looks at that approach, saying that we've got to get rid of people, and say, who's going to replace them?
Yeah.
Now, if you've got somebody who is a hard worker and they're more conservative and they can actually win a primary, then get them to run. Whether you want the party to be more conservative or more moderate, the only way you achieve that goal is you get candidates who can win.
Yep.
That's the only thing that's going to change. Doing rule changes and platform stuff is not going to change. What makes the Republican Party is the people who get elected to office. That's it.
Yeah.
And if you want to be part of that change, run for office. Go to the state party's website.
Yep.
And get out there and that's what I did. That's how I wanted to change the party. And here I am as state chair.
Yep. Exactly.
Anybody can do it, but you've got to put in the work, and you got to prove that you've got a formula for success, and people will follow you.
Yep. It's true. It's very, very true. Oh my gosh. I love it. Okay. Pat says she got her ticket today. All right. One more time,
Great.
you guys.
Thank you, Pat.
I'm going to show you. This is the website. Run for office. Look at run for office. Get involved. Run for office. Get involved. Run for office. Get involved. And
While you're up there, actually, if you want to click on that event page, I ask all of our town and county committees if you up at the top in the header. So like get involved and then go over 2 more.
Oh, get involved. Sorry.
Yep. Then go over right under the G in VTGOP. The top it says event page.
Yep.
Yep. And you can see other events that are going on in your county. So there was Vermont Maple Festival was on there.
Yeah.
There's a congressional candidate forum coming up in Milton, Orleans County.
Oh, that's
all that kind of stuff. So if you're looking for more local stuff,
forum's at 8:30. Why are they trying to torture us? You're going to make us debate at 8:30 in the morning? Gross.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff on the state party website. Probably sometime in May, we'll be getting ready to do some candidate training. So make sure if that's something you're interested in, reach out. Let us know that you're interested in becoming a candidate. If you want to get an invite to that candidate.
Yes. And if you're thinking about running, if you're not ready, like if people click the run for office, you don't have to be decided. Go to the run for office page, send your information to Chairman Dame, call a friend of yours that's involved in politics, shoot me a direct message on Facebook or YouTube or whatever it is, and just ask your questions. Just reach out, explore. We can connect you with folks in your area so that you can talk to them. Like we just had Representative Mark Higley today with us for the float. He's awesome. You mentioned Art Peterson, Samantha, Sally. These are awesome people who are more than generous with their time to encourage people and give them direction. So
and you make a good point. Yeah, you don't have to know that you want to run to click on that button. I call it the candidate inquiry form. What I do is I just assume that you want to get some more information, right? Because if you're a Republican, you want information before you make decisions. Unlike the Democrats who voted for this clean heat standard, they make a decision and they're going to let somebody else figure out the information later. Right? We do it differently in the Republican Party. So what I assume that means is what we'll do is I'll reach out to you. We'll set a scheduled time to talk, and I'll let you know what it was like for me to run for office and what it was like for me to serve in office.
Yeah.
And we can get you some more information about your district as well. But just so you kind of know, like, what am I getting into? What am I signing up for? How easy this is going to be? What's the time requirements? We'll cover all that stuff. So it's a one-on-one. Just to talk to me to make sure you understand what the job is, how to do it, and how to do it well. So,
I love it.
I've had some folks who, filled out that form. We talked and they're like, you know what? I'm just at a place in my life right now where I can't run, but I want to do it 2 years or 4 years or when I retire or something like that. And I'm starting
even better
now for 2024 and 26.
That's right. Because there is stuff that is helpful to do ahead of time. Ways that you can get involved to bring up your name recognition, simpler things to start the process so that in a couple years you're in a better position. It's definitely better to start small and work your way up and learn and practice and grow. So that is good. I love it. Well, thank you again, Chairman Paul Dame, Chairman of the Vermont Republican Party. Thank you for being on Generally Irritable today. Thank you for your efforts in recruiting candidates and really bringing Vermont to a place where we really have a shot this year. We really have a shot if we can get some candidates and we just don't do nothing,
Yeah. I think like I said, it's we got to work together. And we got to be willing to work harder than the Democrats do.
That's right.
And I think the thing that if we spend enough time together, we can find ways to divide us. But I keep coming back to this idea. The thing that unites us as Republicans is we want to see government that is more affordable, more accountable, and more flexible.
Yep.
And if that's what you want to see a state of Vermont that's more accountable, more affordable, more flexible, sign up with the Republican Party, and we're going to try to make that happen if you give us a majority.
Amen. I need to write that down. Affordable, flexible,
accountable, flexible.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. That should be everybody's motto. All right. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Chairman Dame. And I'm going to take us out now.